Well, you and Tareen seem to do a lot of analysis on late 90s, early 2000s rap. Today I saw the little thing you had on Baby Got Back.
Oh, that's so good.
That was great. Yeah.
He just came out of nowhere and was just like, these two songs have some serious tonal dissonance. Like, he's like, I just don't believe you when you say that you're really dangerous and I should be afraid of you. He's like, I don't believe you. And he was like, whereas Sir Mix-a-Lot is rapping about booties and he's so serious. And so then we put the songs on and like, it's even more ridiculous once you realize just how serious Sir Mix-a-Lot is. Like, he's angry and aggressive and rapping about butts. And then Dangerous is like this upbeat, like, this is serious. We should make you delirious. You should have a healthy fear. But like, why am I dancing? This is a song telling me how terrifying you are and how you're going to kill me. Like, it's so funny.
Yeah.
It's like the Busta Rhymes version of Bad by Michael Jackson, where he's like, I'm bad. It's like, oh, yeah, all right, man. I hear you saying it.
The funny thing about Busta too is like he has a lot of other more aggressive sounding songs, and the one that he titles Dangerous, he's kind of like, you know, just having fun with you.
Totally. Do you all know the Prince story with Michael Jackson's dad?
Yeah, where it was like his line was something like, in the late of night, your ass is mine or something, and Prince
so that's the very first line, your butt is mine, and Prince was like, I'm not going to be your opponent on a song where your first line to me is your butt is mine. I'm out. Like, I'm just not doing that.
Is there supposed to be a back and forth in it then?
Well, it was supposed to be Prince in the video instead of Wesley Snipes.
Oh, and Prince was not down with that.
Yeah, it was supposed to be like this big Prince versus MJ, and Prince was like, nah, bruh.
Nah,
not going to happen.
Not doing it.
The dude who wore assless chaps to an award show said, no, that line is too far for me. The dude who sang Darling Nikki and is the reason why we have a parental advisory, despite everybody thinking it's NWA, said no to your butt is mine.
Right.
I can't. You like that is the gem that is Prince.
He was probably the most non-binary person, like pop star since who? Since Bowie? Since Lou Reed?
Yeah,
I don't
but
even
he was
think it was like a masculinity thing. I think it was like an ego, like, you think you could beat me? Like, I really, it's like that absurd.
And he's not even allowed to sing in the song, right?
Right, yeah. It's like that absurd story about them playing basketball and making like that Dave Chappelle always says about playing basketball and making like pancakes or French toast at Prince's house. It's just a classic Prince story of like, no, just. Right. I'm just not going to do that.
I've always been confounded by where he landed on like on gender. He always enjoyed sort of confusing people, but he still had some masculinity things where he's like, no, you're not going to say my butt is yours.
Yeah.
I feel like part of that has to be who is going to be delivering that line, right?
Yeah.
Like, I feel like if somebody else was delivering that line, Prince may have been a little bit more receptive to it, but Michael Jackson may have been a bridge too far.
Wait, let's flush who?
It's mid-'80s, and Prince is like, and there's already all this Prince versus Michael Jackson, who's better, right? Like, who's going to win the sort of like gender-bending, light-skinned black dudes with you know, straight hair wars, right? And so Prince was just like, dude, it's not going to be you. And I'm certainly not going to like be complicit in you winning this war. Like, nah, not going to happen. I just love it.
Is that our intro?
Voices, the things they said. Voices, some from those dead. All the voices heard. Voices, things we say. Voices, they're in your head. All the voices heard.
Hello, everybody. You have Kempa
and Skylar
and Shannon
and Flo.
Yay!
All right, gang's all here.
Gang's all here.
Yeah, we're here.
And why don't we just start with something really positive? Because Shannon, you've got a couple updates, and it sounds like you've got a bright outlook after kind of what was you were discussing, expressing a stressful experience with your medical situation and your gallbladder last week, and apparently some good things have come up. So let us know.
Yeah, I was fucking pissed last week. And I went into
Damn straight.
went into this episode. Fuck Christ, this appointment that I had this morning.
Shannon's like 3, 2, okay.
Yeah, Jesus Christ.
Roll that again.
So I went into this appointment this morning, and I spent a good 45 minutes before the appointment just like nervous and borderline nervous pooping. But what ended up happening
happens to me too, Shannon.
So can you give some background on just a real quick recap of last week?
Yeah, I'm been in some pain, and I think my gallbladder's fucked up, and went in for an appointment. Real difficult to get folks on the phone. When I finally got people on the phone, this doctor told me that I probably needed my gallbladder out, and also I had the liver of an alcoholic, and so I need some interventions. Surprising to me, because I do drink, but not at that rate. So I go into this appointment like concerned, really thinking like I'm going to get bad news. And if to anyone who listened to the episode last time, I was pissed and worried. The surgeon that I spoke to today was a pure delight, told me that I'm healthy, like held space for, we were talking last episode about like women of color and folks who live in larger bodies and the issues that we face when we go to medical appointments. And this guy was just like the doctor that you want if you live at the intersection of those identities. He was so affirming and was like, you are healthy. Like, based on all these numbers, you're healthy, but your gallbladder's fucked up. And I'd love to do something about that for you, but I can't until the fall. So there's that, but otherwise I'm healthy and have a White Claw to drink in a minute.
Congrats.
Progress has been made.
Yeah, I'm glad you got a plan. And I assume if things get serious, if your pain becomes unbearable, they can flip the switch and say, hey, you know what, we're going to call this essential.
So yeah, we actually went over that, and he said that what would have to happen for me to get the surgery before the fall would be like an emergency situation where I develop a high fever and need my gallbladder out, like in the emergency room kind of.
Okay.
Or like I go to the emergency room and then they take me straight to the OR for that. So
okay.
I'm actually like looking at my medical benefits to figure out which one of those, the elective or the emergency surgery, is more expensive. Because I'll take my ass to the emergency room next time I have a gallbladder situation if it's cheaper to get it out that way.
Right.
I mean, work the system.
Yeah. Well, and that's the reality of 2020 coronavirus, right?
Just just get rid of your ID and anything that can identify you. Have Nate dump you out of the car in front of the ER and then tell him you don't remember your name.
That's a really fucking good idea. So I'm thinking about this toolkit that I was talking about, right? That's just going to be number one. I happen to know, based on working with people experiencing homelessness, that's not going to get me very far, but I love the idea.
Yeah, there are other ways they could identify you, but it was
I really like that.
A laudable effort.
That idea sounded bulletproof in my head.
I really like that Flo let it ride for a minute, where she's like, I'm gonna let him have that moment.
I read every face on the screen, and Flo was stone faced.
Flo's like, No, I don't think this idea is not a good idea.
Yeah, okay, sure.
Yeah, so the part of this that now comes is dealing with the doctor that gave me a lot of fucked up information at my first appointment and sent me into a spiral of stress. So I have like a follow-up to the grievance that I filed earlier based on the conversation I had with the doctor today, because how many other people are going to have to go through the same kind of shit I did because she's not doing her shit right?
Sure, absolutely.
I mean, the surgeon today was like, I was like, why do I still feel like shit? And he's like, well, because there's shit going on with you, but also because you've been stressed for a week because you thought that your liver was failing.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
give me my
absolutely.
copay back.
Stress will definitely do that.
Yeah, so it's nice. I feel like a relief for sure. I definitely feel better physically. I was like ready to come and record tonight.
Great.
It's good. It's the best outcome.
Was the physician you saw in the emergency department?
No.
No, so you haven't seen anybody in the emergency department?
No, I haven't.
Okay. All right.
I mean, should I? I'll go now. No, I'm not going to try to go to the emergency.
Can you give it 40 minutes?
I'll go in 40 minutes.
Medicine, like all disciplines, has really great people, and also, some folks that leave much to be desired. So, it's not one over the other. I was just curious if, given everything that was happening and given how you were feeling, if you were, I couldn't remember from last time, if you happened to talk to somebody from the emergency department.
Yeah,
as part of like your triage, like to come in or not. Okay.
I don't even know where this. I don't know anything about her except I know her fucking name and where she works, and that's all I need to know. I love her. That's all you need to know. But
well,
anyway.
I'm so happy that you've made progress on this, both on just your personal medical situation and on your concerns over how you were treated in the sort of quote unquote bedside manner. So that's really nice to hear.
Yeah.
So it's a Monday that we're recording, Monday evening, and we wanted to have a little bit more fun this episode. We knew the last one was kind of a toughie. So we thought it would be interesting to sort of dive into some of the conspiracy theories that we've been listening to and hearing about. We're all on social media surrounding coronavirus, and just sort of give some thoughts on that. So, I mean, where do we begin? What's the favorite one that one of you's heard so far?
Oh man.
I mean, the popular ones, right, are the 5G towers.
5G.
Right.
Okay, so
Bill
what is
Gates.
that one?
Okay, so the 5G also all of these tie into Bill Gates, which it may be my favorite part of the whole thing.
Do they?
That, almost all of these conspiracies somehow can be linked back to Bill Gates. The 5G one is just that, like, people were sharing memes where they had like the initial corona outbreaks, if you look at them on a map, are the same places where they were installing 5G towers and whatnot. So people linked them together and were like, this isn't a virus. They're beaming this directly into our bodies via 5G towers, right? Mm-hmm. Which, of course, like any of these conspiracy theories, is accompanied by all this text. It was like, no, you idiot. It's not a virus like all the doctors are saying, you poor fool.
Wake up, sheeple.
Yeah, exactly. Which rules? I'm super into that sort of thing. But yeah, I guess, I mean, this is not my area. I have been made to understand that it is impossible to get a lung infection from radio waves. So that seems like it has been debunked.
That is correct.
Basic level. But I don't know. I'm sure that if you are capable of like Olympic level of mental gymnastics, you can get around that somehow.
Sky, can you say that again? Because all I heard was "ba."
Oh my god!
I love it.
Fuck, that's good.
All right, you get to make that joke 3 times over the course of this coming conversation.
And then your recording gets trashed somehow.
Yeah, and then we hit the mute button.
Yeah, wow. Well, the one thing with that, right? They find like this link, and I haven't followed any of this because I don't have the mental bandwidth for it. But they make this association, right, with like new 5G towers and where the outbreaks are, and they come up with what you would call a correlation, right? It's a very loose correlation, I assume, but like Flo, you work in the medical world and you know a thing or two about
Can you use your expertise that you've gained over years and years of intensive study to debunk this complete crackpot horse shit, please?
Like, can you talk about, like, I mean, first of all, you can just talk about the 5G thing and why that's like not a thing, and or a discussion sort of laying out for people like what a false correlation could mean and why we need to be careful when we're making these loose associations.
So I will give you my favorite example of why we have a saying in epidemiology that association does not equal causation. And it is about another virus that thankfully does not spread anymore because we had a vaccine for it, and that is polio. And if you look, though, at when polio cases are highest, they tend to track almost identically in terms of peaks and valleys with the sales of Coca-Cola. And so one could very falsely make the claim that drinking Coca-Cola causes polio. It does not. Polio is a virus. But the sales of Coke go up during the summer, and then they have certain dips at different times of the year, similarly to the polio virus when it was still spreading. And so just because two things happen to move at the same time does not mean that they are related. So yes, 5G towers are being erected around the globe. And yes, there is a novel strain of SARS-CoV-2 that started spreading sometime probably in December. The fact that those two things happened at the same time does not mean they are causally linked.
I like that you say association and not correlation, which I said, because association, it brings it home even harder that, like, come on, these have nothing to do with each other.
Correct. Yes. So you can and when I say association, it's because they are what we call temporally or time-based associations, right? Which is that this thing happened and this thing happened. And people are right if they're remembering their basic science that that's one of the things you must prove in order to be able to say two things are timed. But there's also other ones like dose response, which basically means if I have more Coca-Cola, am I going to get worse polio? Or if I drink more Coca-Cola, am I more likely to get polio? The answer to both of those is no, right? And so when you start going down all the things that like add up to something being causal, then you realize, okay, these two are not linked, even though there is an association in terms of when they start to both increase. And so the same thing is happening with the 5G towers. There's absolutely no association between the two. And COVID-19 is actually the virus title is SARS-CoV-2. It's a severe acute respiratory syndrome of coronavirus, and then we've given it the number 2. And so that's the virus that you're infected with. And COVID-19 is actually the disease that is produced from being infected with that virus. And so we have isolated and been able to see that virus. And so we know that it's a thing that exists, and we are increasingly learning more about how it spreads. But one of the things that we can say pretty definitively is that it's not linked with 5G.
A little pushback. All 4 of us, every episode, drink White Claw, and
None of us have
interestingly,
it.
none of us have coronavirus.
Is there something there? Is there something to
Interesting.
that? I hadn't
We
thought
have
of
the vaccine.
Have we found
The
it? Do we inject it? Is that how you?
Flo loves
that. We
this.
need to inject White Claw directly into our lungs. No, I had an actual question for Flo regarding that. So, from what you just said, what I'm hearing is that a person who only drinks Pepsi, even if they have not been vaccinated against polio, is immune to polio. Am I understanding this correctly?
I love that
As much
Flo
as I'd
got
like to
fully
say
serious.
yes.
Flo was so ready to answer a real question.
I was like, okay, what's your question? Oh, Pepsi. Okay,
Pepsi,
yes.
huh?
For the listeners out there who may be concerned, this is not brand specific. There's no association between any drinks whatsoever and polio, which has since been eradicated from the U.S.
Listen,
Just
I'm just
switch to
going to wait
Pepsi
till the
just to be
truth comes
safe, though.
out. I'm just asking questions here. Okay, everyone.
It's not worth. Why take the risk? Just switch to Pepsi. It's that easy.
Yeah.
Oh my
it.
God.
Got it on lock.
Okay,
Like,
I got another
address
actual question
comments
for
and
you.
questions like that.
I was reading
just-
about the 5G thing, and there was somebody shared a meme of just this super long made for Instagram typed out rant, and it was all full of come on, you believe the media and what they're telling you? No. But one of the sentences struck me. It says this 5G shit was planned years ago to depopulate us and keep us at a low vibrational state. Does anybody here know what that means?
Yeah, that's the people who are into crystal healing and stuff.
You wouldn't understand unless you were at a high vibrational state.
You're not vibrating high enough to get
so
it.
I'm not at
Skylar.
liberty to tell you.
Can I do something to increase my vibrancy?
Yeah, get your
you can
chakras
believe
right.
we're telling you, and maybe that might help.
It's
for real though. What does being at a low vibrational state mean for these guys versus being at a high one?
Well, the funny thing is, their response to that would be exactly, you don't know.
Yeah,
I'd be pumped to have
mean,
that response.
I think it is
this
about
feels,
chakra healing stuff.
Yeah, it feels a little bit like we're really talking about energy, which makes sense given that. I mean, so I'm gonna give them a bit of a hall pass on this conspiracy because 5G is an electromagnetic wavelength, right? And so I guess in the spirit of light and energy, they're trying to pull together all of the science they remember from high school and make it all make sense in a way that feels good to them, right? But yeah, electromagnetic wavelengths don't give you viruses. That's not a thing. That the sun doesn't give you pneumonia, to quote my friend Devin. This isn't a thing that happens. So there's a logic jump that's happening there that I think is because people are afraid, and I just want to honor people's fear. I think part of this is that people are afraid and they're looking for something they can control. And so staying away from their cell phone or avoiding cell phone towers feels more controllable than when we say to people very seriously that their viruses are, invisible, right? And they can spread person to person. And so the very people that you want to be around and that you need for your own survival also could potentially infect you with something that could make you very sick or kill you. And we don't know everything about the virus yet, and you potentially are going to lose your job and your housing and everything about the way of life you're accustomed to, all because of something invisible that we don't know much about and we can't control right now. We have no vaccine for. That is unnerving to most people. And that is the God's honest truth, and it's terrifying. So people start making stuff up to try to make themselves feel better. I don't sleep with my cell phone by my head like the rest of y'all, and that's why I'm not gonna get the Rona, right? And it's okay, sure, but that probably makes you feel better. And honestly, keep your phone away from, where you sleep, because it's the thing you touch all day and it's disgusting. But, it's like, it's not because of 5G. Like, if your phone is giving you coronavirus, it's because coronavirus got on the surface and you really need to like wash your phone.
Yeah. I think a lot of what happens in stuff like this is we don't, first of all, like, as you said, it's a very stressful time. We also don't know what source of information to trust. And that provides a wide open space for people to be like, okay, I have to go out and find the source of information that I can trust, right? So when you see people sowing information that says, well, we can't trust the WHO because, Trump said that they were trying to help China to shut down, information on coronavirus, or we can't trust the CDC because of A, B, and C. People start seeking out like where the answers are. And I think there's an element of, it's the same thing like with how you the first step with getting somebody into a cult. And the first step there is saying to somebody who's seeking answers, everything you've been told to believe is wrong. It's a lie. And that's kind of the first step down the path into some of these conspiracy theories.
Mm-hmm.
What's another one that's been going down? So this Bill Gates one, what is that, Sky?
So the Bill Gates one, there's a whole bunch of it, right? Like there's the thing where they think that Bill Gates has a vaccine and he's just like waiting to sell it and like get rich off of it.
I have not heard this one at all.
Yeah, there's a whole bunch of shit like that. It's all like, Bill Gates, what was another? I can't remember. There's like a whole bunch of these. So I was reading this article to kind of prep for this in Forbes, by this guy named Bruce Y. Lee, who and you would expect this from Forbes, right? But this guy is just like, his take on this is like, Bill Gates is the best thing that has ever happened to the world and philanthropy in general. Why would anybody be accusing this man of instigating this virus? It seems completely ridiculous. And
Yes,
Bill, please save us at Forbes.
Right, exactly. So this guy,
that's what I hear too.
I saved some quotes because these are hilarious. And this is like in a real article that's supposed to be informational. This guy writes, so this is a sentence. Yet,
sorry.
Now conspiracy theorists are claiming that Gates somehow created this pandemic. Isn't this like blaming someone for causing a heart attack after he or she has warned you for years about such a possibility? So one of the things, right, is that Bill Gates, before all of this started, was correctly saying like, we aren't ready for a pandemic, and I had something to say about Trump pulling the funding for like our pandemic crew or whatever. I don't know what the name of them is.
They're a pandemic posse.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So obviously
pandemic response team, I think, is the official term. But yeah, he was right, and public health was saying the same thing. We're just not famous, right? But we've been saying for a long time, like, you guys, we're not ready, like, at all. In the same way that, like we said, Sacramento's not ready to be the next Katrina, but we had levee issues, and we, and a wide floodplain that includes places where lots of people live, like. And so if somebody famous says that, and then we get hit with, some sort of major weather event that floods Sacramento, that's going to be like, see, that person caused it. And it's like, no, that person just can read.
Right. So there's a lot of that going around. Like, oh, Bill Gates was talking about pandemics a month before the first case. This is his fault. It's like,
he could have thrown, but I will say he could have thrown billions of dollars towards the public health experts throughout the world, and it wouldn't even put a dent in his money.
That's
he only makes money now. He said he'd stop making money. He only makes money off of his passive income, and it still is, his worth is rising. So this guy could be doing a lot more.
He could be doing a lot more. Yeah,
Jeff Bezos made $24 billion during this pandemic or something crazy. Like,
yeah.
Well, and then they like donate like 20 million or something to like research or things like that, and people are like, oh my God, how can anybody ever say that like Jeff Bezos like is bad, like he's a bad dude. And it's like, dude, that's like me writing a check for like 25 cents and mailing it in and being like, I did my part.
You're welcome.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, but no, it's not even like you writing a check for 25 cents, Skylar, because if you wrote a check for 25 cents, you would be 25 cents poorer after having written that check. It would take, and I think this was like 2 years ago, that Jeff Bezos would have to give away $30 million a day to avoid getting richer. Not to put a dent in what he already had, just to avoid getting richer per day, Shannon.
So for all of our conspiracy theorist listeners, there are real fucking people to look at who could help us fix this issue. Real fucking people that we can focus on, as Logan kind of hinted towards us last week, that I really think we should be considering long before we consider a new world order, as was mentioned by President fucking FDR.
Because let's be clear here, the people who are currently, so rich that 2 years ago they had to give away $30 million to avoid getting poorer are not the people who want a new world order. This world order is doing just fine.
They're fine.
Right.
This is it.
They are good.
They've got it.
The new world order potentially puts their riches in peril. Right?
Mm-hmm.
Like this is not Pinky in the Brain. We're in a tiny little lab trying to take over the world for a reason. Okay?
Yeah.
Because those are the people who want to flip the script, not the people at the top of the food chain.
Yep.
The lion never says, we should shake things up in this jungle. Like, no, we shouldn't.
Right. It's not.
Fine, get at the top of the food chain.
So another thing that like they're getting on
Great
about
analogy.
Gates put out some like Instagram video where he's like thanking healthcare, where he's doing the thing where like, oh, you healthcare workers are heroes. And then like I guess his comments blew up with conspiracy things and whatnot. And so this person, this Bruce Lee guy from Forbes goes, again, all of this after Gates posted no more than a thank you healthcare workers message. Isn't that like trying to punch a person in the face after he or she says thank you to someone else? This goes on. We're not done with these analogies of like, isn't that like, from this guy? This is killing me. Nevertheless, different coronaviruses are very different. Holding a patent for one doesn't translate to a patent for another, because I think there's like some kind of deal with him and like the patents for like a different strain of like an earlier strain of SARS or something along those lines. I don't know. I didn't go dive that deep into it. But this says holding a patent for one doesn't translate to a patent for another. That would be like saying that Paris Hilton, who trademarked the catchphrase, "That's hot," also owns the rights to "That's not," or "That's snot," or "hot wings." I'm like, reading through this, I'm like, what the fuck, Forbes? This guy's he's like a senior writer for Forbes too. It fucking rules.
Is he really? Because I know some people who like write for Forbes and they're just like random people at random companies, and like Forbes doesn't give a shit. Like because you write for free there, they get your content for free, they get the clicks, and then you get your raised these are all business fucking hacks that like are like, well, now I write in Forbes. None of that means fucking anything.
No, but he is like his title on the thing. I didn't write it down, but it was something that it had senior in it somewhere. It was like
it's
senior.
He's a senior contributor. Okay. Bruce Lee is.
Oh my God. So this is the one. I'm sorry. What was this conspiracy theory then? It's that Bill is.
I'm not.
He created this in a lab, and he has the cure. Okay. And he will give it to the highest bidder.
I haven't seen.
Is that the way? That's part of the way I've heard it.
Yeah. I think that's.
He also had some kind of I think charitable involvement in previous breakouts of other flu strains, right?
Yes, he's been very involved in infectious disease worldwide. He was involved in the eradication of polio. They were trying to do the same thing with measles. They've been really trying to like kind of take some of the diseases that were in circulation that were targets for just eradication as opposed to just vaccine control, and trying to move those efforts up.
Okay. What I heard, the main Bill Gates one that I heard was that he's going to use this vaccine when we finally use it across the country, when we make it mandated. He's going to use it to install human trackers.
Right.
Yeah, I mean the other one, I had not heard that this was a Bill Gates thing.
I didn't know he was so central to all of this.
No, I had no idea.
I need to wake up.
Until today.
I think they started to figure out that George Soros isn't doing like even a half of 1% of the things that he gets accused of doing. So like the eye of Sauron got like focused over on Gates.
Well, the Soros one, that kind of lays their anti-Semitism there, and they can hide a little bit when the Bill Gates one comes out. Yeah.
The whole tracker microchip in the vaccine situation is one that I really love. Like people who are like, I'm going to stay at home forever because I'm not going to get that. Like, because they're down with the science of the virus, the way that it's transmitted and all that. But they're like, vaccine, nope, because I don't want that microchip.
Right, exactly.
So these are the people who have the bunkers under their homes, maybe.
A lot of these are also the same people who like don't walk down the street without posting it on Instagram, being like walking down the street. Like, I mean,
right?
Like, you're really
they're standing outside the hospital, just like, oh, where are all the people? Weird,
Right.
Yeah. I mean, what do you even fucking say to these people? What do you say to them?
It's the same thing as when they're like, oh, Apple, like all you guys with iPhone 10s or whatever with facial recognition, that's just Apple getting all of your facial ID to like sell to the government and whatnot. It's like, do you have a driver's license?
I actually kind of agree with that one.
The government's got a huge file of all of our faces in a database anyway already.
Right.
Like there's no...
Sure.
And that's a better cell phone like conspiracy, because you take it everywhere with you, right? It has a ton of your personal information. You can pay for things on it. Like why not just make that the 5G conspiracy?
Yeah. I mean,
but how could you translate that into COVID-19?
Well, the biggie will be the trackers on our phones that I think is going to freak people out. So when they start developing particular apps or capabilities on our phones that let us know, as in China and South Korea, that like we have come within 5 feet of somebody with coronavirus, if it's able to, do it within that sort of granularity, people are going to get really freaked out by like how much the government actually knows where they are at any given moment. Which I think that that is a valid concern. And I ran into a couple people who work with the state on COVID response, and then somebody who works with the city on innovation, on my way home from buying my White Claws tonight. And when I asked one of them kind of what their thoughts on this topic was, they totally balked. It felt like they were afraid to respond to me as a journalist, because I think they understand that people will freak out about this as an approach.
Sure.
Yeah. I mean, people are always and rightly worried about privacy concerns, because, any of our information in the wrong hands. I mean, we saw what happened with Equifax hacking, and millions of people had their information stolen.
Right.
This information is the key to our livelihood, and when it's you know, when it's available to people for one use, there's nothing to stop somebody with bad intentions from using it for another.
Right. Well, and like our government, I think government to government, country to country, it's different on like abuses, right? Our government does not have a good history of saying, hey, we have a good reason to use this technology now, and then saying after the danger is gone, we're going to stop using that.
Right.
We're not going to abuse it, right? They did that after 9/11. We still have the Patriot Act effectively in play. They still can access literally anything we're doing, and that's a fucking problem. And people are like either not thinking about it or aren't as scared about that, concerned about that as they should be. And that those are the fears with some of the people in the tech privacy world right now. Yes, that could potentially help us deal with this virus. It could help save lives. But what about after the fact? We need stopgaps in play where we know that the government will not have access to that shit the second this is over.
Well, and like you're saying too, like any time that like Silicon Valley gets involved and it's like, hey, we're in this big crisis, we could use this tech to help. Their approach 100% of the time is like, oh, sweet, yeah, do we want like this really overbearing surveillance, like just like put out universally across like the entire population? Cool, yeah, we're ready to go, let's ride, you know.
Yeah, also Google is like, oh yeah, we already have all this info. And Verizon, and right, and like and it's like you're like, whoa, what? They have, oh fuck.
Yeah, anytime they ask,
because
the government
our
asks them
location
for
is
help.
on.
Right.
So they've been tracking our location.
Yeah, all the time. Yeah. So like that's the space where it's funny because like we talk about these conspiracy theorists and it's like, man, like they're doing it, it's just like it feels like they're like somewhat smart people often, but like they haven't had a formal education in things like correlation and causation, or in sort of the scientific process, or in vetting their news sources. That's a real biggie too. And like the problem is not that they shouldn't be skeptical. We should be skeptical. There are things we should be concerned about. The problem is like they're going down these really deep paths that are totally incorrect. That most of this stuff is pretty easily debunkable.
My favorite is when they have the ones with the like really mystery motivations where you're like, but why, even if the government could do that, why would they do that? It's interesting too that every time it's a government conspiracy, it's the same people who are like, the government cannot be trusted to like operate a popsicle stand, are then like, the government has been working this centuries long conspiracy involving like millions of people and this like really convoluted network across the world. It's like, okay, pick one of those. Like, is the government the most efficient like conspiracy machine on the planet, or are they a bunch of like inept morons who can't do anything right? Because those two things
did we fake the moon landing or not?
Right,
like
exactly.
That's what I want to know. Did we fake it? Like, is that a soundstage?
I mean, the other side of that, so another one of the conspiracy theories, and I think this is the Alex Jones one, is that the whole thing is a big hoax. There is no coronavirus. All the numbers are faked. All the like everything is like complete bullshit. Because it's the because part where I'm like, because the government wants us to stay in our houses and not go to work? Like, what could possibly be the government's motivation to like want to completely train wreck the economy? Like, it seems like this is like the government, this isn't working out very well for the government.
Let me put on the hat of the person I've been arguing with. And the argument is that this is the government taking the final privacy power grab of the citizens of the world. The government, capital G, right? So every government in the world doing the final privacy grab so that they can result in their quote unquote new world order. And when somebody makes a claim like that, it's just like, I don't fucking know where to begin with you, man.
No, that's where you
first of
gotta
all,
But what
draw
about the
away.
people who are actually sick and dying?
Right.
again, no, yeah. And
I mean,
these are
because
people.
that's only real if you Truman Show it and nobody actually knows anybody who's gotten sick or died. But we actually know people who have felt sick, have gotten sick, and then are no longer with us. So,
Well, maybe you and I do.
What happened to those
but this,
people?
I don't think this person does. And
Okay.
so this person, among other people, right? Even among like, the center of the U.S. right now, it's a lot of people saying like, well, this is only a problem in cities. That's like a smaller contingent. But like, this person, I've been arguing with them on if it is or is not a serious virus, right? And so I've had to get down to the brass tacks of what makes this so scary, what makes this different than the flu, what makes this highly contagious, and to a degree that they will share far right content from around the world, and I have to say, listen, I know you're not a right-wing person, this is far right content. And also they'll post like something about Edward Snowden saying we must rise up against all governments, and I say, here's the full interview. He never said that. And also, he's taking this virus seriously. I hope you would as well.
Yeah.
Good luck with
This
that, man. My experience with that sort of thing is that you can't, there's no you can't talk your way out of that.
Historically, I just have unfriended folks. But the thing about this one, it's like, I'm like, well, if they've got third-party friends who are reading these threads, I might as well just engage. And I'll engage nicely, and I'll just provide sources.
And sometimes you're not actually engaging the person you're talking to. You're engaging all the people who will see that exchange, but will never like or comment on it, but will read it.
And
so sometimes I do that where I'm just like, I can't let this amount of misinformation stand without some rebuttal, even if
now I understand your anti-vax discourses on social media.
Yeah. Like, I just can't let that stand.
When someone's like, I'm just a truck driver, but here's my 2 cents. And you're like, okay, well, I'm just a PhD in epidemiology, and here's my 2 cents on vaccinations.
I feel like I learned a lot just now. And one of those things is that I did not dive deep enough into the conspiracy theory world, because my favorite from my 7 minutes of research prior to jumping on here was that Disney is behind this whole thing. Have you heard this?
Oh, I haven't.
No, I have not heard the Disney theory. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, so Disney did it because they wanted to make sure that sales for Disney Plus were on point.
Yeah.
So they put out the virus, because I can't with Flo's face right now. They put out the virus because they needed people to be at home and need their entertainment.
I love the idea.
Because they don't make money at all on their theme parks, which require people to leave their house and congregate in large numbers. Okay,
yeah, people didn't think that one through.
Whenever I hear ones like that, I'm always like, all right, like I like to imagine like the boardroom meeting that's happening where they're like, all right, guys, we really need this Disney Plus thing to hit. Who's got some innovative new strategies for how we can launch this thing in a really, really great way? And somebody's like, okay, this is going to sound completely banana.
Virus.
But like, hear me out. We're going to engineer a virus
globally.
The whole planet, right? Everybody's getting.
You know where we're going to start? Wuhan. Because they have a market there, an open market that has lots of animals, and everybody will just think it's them, and nobody will look into it at all.
Well, it's the anti-Disney, really. Yeah.
And then there's just like the rest of the boardroom is just sitting there. I imagine in like kind of silence for a minute.
I love how Flo has just frozen right now.
The whole boardroom. The whole boardroom is like silent for a minute, and somebody's like, "I don't hate that virus idea. Can we get the mouse scientists working on the Wuhan virus?"
Wait, is the argument that that Disney created a virus? Or is the argument that Disney is doing a wag the dog type thing where it's like, oh, make people think there's a virus?
Well, the one thing that I read on it was that Disney created the virus.
Okay.
In order to boost Disney Plus sales, because they need that $7.99 a month from
everybody.
All the people who are stuck at home.
You know who else is like, not only Zoom, who we are using at the moment, is profiting hand over fist right now because of this thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So I think we can probably glance the side eye at them. But like Locks of Love is about to have a windfall, right? And if you think that it's a fucking coincidence that there's a coronavirus thing where we all have to stay inside and can't go to the barber, and then all of a sudden Locks of Love is getting all these donations from people who haven't been able to fucking go see a stylist for like months at a time, who knows? I don't know, man. That's on you. I got a fucking bridge to sell you.
It's the big wig industry. That's it.
I mean, Big Wig does wield a lot of power in DC.
We've been hearing about them forever, but we never really understood.
Holy shit.
For years, they've treated us like we aren't a real lobby.
We
Release the virus.
It incorrectly, not Big Wigs. It was Big Wig.
Big Wig. It's not Big Wig. Big Wig. To be clear, people.
Wow.
Let's be clear.
Wake up, America. We've done a full fucking hour.
I feel like that is like, yes.
Have we been going for an hour?
Girl you wish you hadn't started a conversation with at a party. Like, that's what this conversation is.
Oh, yeah. No, totally. Yeah. We're just, going in circles and
we had all sorts of
cracking claws.
Discuss, but this was 10 times better than any of that would have been. Like, even if the government, the Pentagon today released all these like UFO images, it's like, this was, who gives a shit?
Dude, I'm kind of glad we didn't do that, and I will tell you why. And I'm going to tell you why I'm glad we didn't do it, and then I will not be willing to discuss it any further.
You shan't be responding to to replies.
Every time,
I'm tweeting on this.
This is not my. This is not my first time down the rabbit hole with these like UFO videos that are like from the Air Force or the Navy. If you want to go find it, you can go find testimonial of like military officials under oath testifying to the fact that they saw things that they, as experts in this field for decades, have no way to explain, cannot explain how this thing moved in a certain way or was able to turn or accelerate in a certain way. We don't have that tech. I hate watching that shit because I want to talk about it, but I know that I can't. Because anytime you're like, hey, man, check this out, right? Like, the military knows about this, man. Like, this, you can go look at footage of this right now, blah, blah, blah. People are like, all right, you fucking whack job. And, like, at the end of the day, it's more important to me that people don't think I'm a whack job than to be, like, investigating the truth about UFOs.
But, like, okay, let's be clear here, Skylar. Like, the possible existence of other life forms or something is far less like out in left field somewhere than the idea that our cell phone towers are giving us a virus that's killing people, or like that somebody made it up, or that it doesn't exist at all. Like, we could just so easily debunk that it doesn't exist because we've had people who have gotten sick and die who are famous enough that like we could go back and be like exhume the body, like this person is like
right.
So I'm not convinced that we are alone in this galaxy or any of the galaxies, right? Like, I think that would be presumptuous and a bit egotistical to assume that we're the only life form that exists in any way. So
I'm not
I think
I'm
a
not
lot
saying
of the
that,
UFO
like,
sightings are like out there, and probably something else probably do have an explanation. But the idea that there could be some evidence somewhere of something that, like, we're trying to make it to Mars. Who says there's not something on, a planet trying to make it? Like, I think it's unlikely that planets beyond the few around us are going to have life as we know it simply because of temperature and all the things we know. But like, I also don't think it's unreasonable to assume that there are other galaxies and that there are other ways that life could show up that could present themselves to us in some way, right?
Yeah, so especially life that's like more advanced than ours, because I've met a lot of humans and like we're not that advanced, man.
Say that,
and again, like
I mean, at a certain point, it is like it's unreasonable to like insist that we are the only life in the universe if you accept the idea that like the universe is this ever expanding thing that is like continually generating all of this energy and creating all this shit. Then it's dumb to think that we're the only ones. That said, if you go to the bar and start telling people that like you saw a video on YouTube that convinced you that like Area 51,
well, don't start with YouTube.
Yeah, I think you gotta be better.
That's where you messed up, Skylar. It wasn't the content.
You gotta be
the
better at
Washington
sourcing.
Post and New York Times wrote about this. Like the Pentagon released videos today. You know,
I'm telling you.
What Skylar is trying to tell us is that he believes that conspiracy theory that the aliens brought the Rona.
That's
And
it.
I'm an alien Rona conspiracy.
It's interesting because the virus is really close to the bat coronavirus, and we didn't have to go to another planet to find that.
That's true.
Well, but we don't know that bats are originally from this planet.
Maybe those are the aliens.
Oh, wait,
I mean, if so, you know, I mean, the Transformers have lived among us. I see big rigs all the time. I'm just saying.
Let me say, this might be a little bit of loose association on our parts.
I mean, I mean.
You're telling me when a big rig doesn't run by you, you don't think to yourself, Optimus?
It could be.
Is that you?
A little bit. I do,
Just
yeah.
saying.
Didn't they? I mean,
I
this
think
is like
about it.
going really off topic, but wasn't it? I didn't see the last one. Don't they in the last one credit the Transformers with operating the Underground Railroad?
Correct. Yes. There's a lot of which is like,
no.
which is like, okay,
Now we're going off
time relationally though. I'm confused because what were you all then? Because you're cars now, and that didn't exist then. Like we're still a good 40, 50 years before the Model T.
Before the Model T. It's not like the Model T.
Yeah, like what were you doing? Like
They were some like steampunk, like some steam engine looking Transformers.
Was it an actual railroad?
Oh my god! I did not know about any of this.
They tried to make it seem like they had been this like historical and ongoing do-gooder supporter kind of, you know, alien.
Who in that
Here's a
writer's
conspiracy
room was
theory
like,
for
yeah,
you.
let's do this. Yeah.
Here's the conspiracy theory. Have you ever considered the fact that a train might be basically like the human centipede, but for Transformers?
Oh.
Uh-huh.
Oh,
Well, I've seen
I had
a lot
not
of those
thought about that.
very grotesque Thomas the Train, like scientist cartoons where it's like they're trying to like force a man into like a locomotive train. Very disturbing.
Uh-huh.
I'll
All
leave
right.
it there. Yeah.
Well, Dave,
Come on, your human centipede thing didn't gross people out, but that did.
I mean, it was just supposed to be like their version of a centipede is the train.
No,
In the same
I
way
think
that,
he
like,
was
the
saying
pines
like
are
ass to
larger.
mouth.
Yeah, no, he was saying
Centipede.
ass to mouth. He was saying ass to mouth.
And you
Whoa.
all were nodding along.
Whoa. Oh no. I mean I knew, I just wasn't gonna do anything about it.
Yeah, I was actually
I
surprised
see.
when Flo was like,
Asshole,
"Yeah, I
okay.
can see that. That makes sense. I'm with that
I
idea."
just thought that we were all on the same page of being like,
Comment on
we're not gonna
cartoons
touch
I
it.
saw, and everything goes crazy.
I was not. I didn't.
I lose all rapport with my fellow podcasters.
Interesting. Okay.
Well, guys,
Okay.
I want to bring it down to a more serious note.
Uh-oh.
I haven't brought this up on this show because I don't like to bring my personal business into the show.
Right.
Not only am I unemployed due to COVID-19, but now that this podcast is probably going to get canceled, I don't have that going either.
Yeah.
Which
Tipper Gore
makes
is
the
on
next
us
question
on-
I have
Oh my
doesn't
God.
really make any sense anymore. But like, hypothetically, if the show were to somehow keep going after this disastrous fucking episode, where on the internet could I find more of it and other great content like what we've been doing today?
Like the human centipede. Where can I find that ass to mouth content?
Where
Wow.
can I find?
Oh my goodness.
Voices River City is America's ATM. So
Oh, shit.
okay. Yeah, absolutely. You know, I don't know if you know this, but this is a weird transition. But Voices River City has actually, I believe, as of yesterday, been around for 3 years.
Hey.
All right.
Yeah, so that's super cool.
Happy birthday,
Yay,
three-nagers.
And-
Woo-hoo.
and
So we're
VRC
cutting up like three-nagers.
Yeah, 3-nagers.
On
This is
this
the perfect
episode.
Way to
That's true.
celebrate, yeah.
Yeah. And Voices has had a few different iterations, and this one is among my favorites now. But you know, we've done a lot of great journalism, a lot of great community essays over the years, and you can find all of that at voicesrivercity.com. Also over there, a great, brilliant up-and-comer named Skylar Henry is writing a piece that I just got the first draft, and I gotta say I'm blown away by it. And we're gonna.
I hear he's unemployed and.
Yeah, well, we're gonna try and do our best to pay him what he's.
Yeah, I hear he's unemployed and looking for things to do with his time.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing that he's been doing. We've got more of the SAC Follows the Money project coming up with the 2 final city council races that will be coming up in November. And again, community members are welcome to do more writing at Voices River City. Just reach out to us. We are on Instagram, and that's been a joy to watch grow. At
Truly.
Voices River City. We're on Facebook, Voices River City. And then also we have a Patreon, patreon.com/Voices River City. We just passed our 50th patron, so that's been really exciting.
Wow.
And you can go as low as $5 a month if you feel like it. That's a beer at the bar that you're not going to these days. We are all on Twitter. I am at Kempa.
I am Guillotine for you. Guillotine, the number 4 YOU.
I'm Shan N.D. Stevens.
And I'm Flojaune at FLOJAUNE.
And if you heard that dog barking in the background, that would be Simi.
That would be stimming.
And then
Flo don't like him.
also, I want to thank Be Brave Bold Robot for your great music every time that we have an episode. And John, I'm not sure if we'll be getting your graphics up on this one, but thank you so much for thinking of us on that and for sending that our way.
I think my favorite thing of this episode is the sheer audacity in like mentioning, like referring to a train being the human centipede for Transformers, and then not even 5 minutes later being like, if you would like to contribute to journalism, just $5 a month.
If you want more great train content,
We got you.
But yeah, hey, if you like this sort of thing, even if you don't have $5, that's cool. Tell your friends about this fantastic show. Give us a 5-star rating on Apple Podcasts.
yeah.
This
Clearly
is
deserves-
definitely.
We've
We
earned
can
it.
allow ourselves to have fun when, if it's all, everything that's going on. It's tough sometimes.
Oh yeah. I feel like this is our most like Wildin' Out episode. I'm so much so that I sat in my chair just like shocked at the entire thing. Truly like unable to even contribute anything because I was
Shannon's
like,
here. Oh, wow.
what is going on? I loved every moment of it. I will
So many
pay
conspiracy theories.
I will pay $25 a month to hear more of this content.
Oh, thank you so much for your support.
So we'll flow.
Samesies.
Oh. I love you all.
Well, guys, until Friday, yeah?
Sounds good.
Until Friday.
Everybody stay safe.
Until Friday.
Stay happy, stay healthy, stay sane. And
try to do all those things.
And stay away from everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And
don't-
believe every conspiracy theory you hear. It's a more interesting world out there.
That's a good way. Stay happy, stay healthy, stay sane, stay away.
There you go.
I love it.
Good. New tagline.
Right?
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.